Is the last time you listened to AM radio? Its future could be in jeopardy with a recent move by some manufacturers to remove AM radio from new electric vehicle models and possibly other car models as well. The problem, manufacturers say, is that the EV's motors interfere with AM frequencies, creating annoying noises. But now a bipartisan group of lawmakers are pushing to keep AM radio in cars by requiring it in all models. And other groups are on board. Joining us now is the executive director of one of those groups, the Indiana Broadcasters Association. Dave Arland, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you being here.
Well, it's a pleasure to join you from up north, up in the Indianapolis area. And it sounds like it's a little warmer down where you are as compared to up here, but it's another beautiful day here in the Hoosier State.
It is a beautiful day. Now, but we're in this day and age, though, you know, so many people get their information from their phone or their laptop. Is AM radio a thing of the past? Why is it important to keep it in those cars?
Well, there's so many listeners throughout the state of Indiana who tune to AM radio on their drive into work, or maybe there's a tornado that's blowing through, and so you're relying on a lot of those AM stations. We have about 80 AM stations here in the state of Indiana, thousands and thousands of listeners, and it's all kinds of programming, not only news and talk, religious information, a lot of music on AM still as well. And our concern basically is that as we move to electric vehicles, there are some manufacturers who are cutting corners and literally cutting out AM radio right out of the middle of their cars. So a new effort has just been announced actually earlier this afternoon. We have representatives and senators on both sides of the aisle in the House and the Senate who are going to move to make AM radio requirement in every vehicle sold in America. Obviously, broadcasters in Indiana support that, and we're bringing it to the attention of people, hoping that AM radio listeners will contact their members of Congress.
Well, let's talk about the public safety aspect. You mentioned that a little bit. My understanding is when phones or the internet goes down, AM radio can continue. Is that correct?
AM radio has proven over the last 100 years since the first signals went on air here in Indiana to be a very stable and reliable source of information. You know, I love getting information on my cell phone, but frequently in the event of a tornado, which is common here in the Hoosier State, it's cell towers that are among the very first things that get impacted. They just aren't typically set up to be as strong as broadcasters, whether that's AM, but also FM and TV as well. So our concern is that for thousands of listeners, if you purchased a very expensive brand new electric vehicle, we understand that Ford is planning to pull AM radio out of electric vehicles. They're pulling that out of the new Mustang as well. And we just think that that's not a good idea from a safety standpoint, not to mention just the programs that you might enjoy listening to on the AM dial. You know, so we're supporting this effort nationally. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, AM radio, one great thing about it, it's free. You know, all you have to have is a radio, and you can get AM radio. It is free. It's used a lot, it seems like more even by rural Americans. So this is really difficult for them if this does go through.
That's right, and we're very grateful for Representative Larry Bucshon, who represents the Evansville area, for his support of this effort so far. We're going to be going into the halls of Congress to ask for members all over the country to support us. And yes, in rural America, AM radio is very important. That's what is so concerning about a major manufacturer like Ford stepping forward to say, we're taking that out of the new electric F-150. Frankly, we think that's a very short-sighted move. It is the worst kind of cost-cutting, and we hope that radio listeners throughout the country let auto manufacturers know that AM radio should be a baseline, and you said the magic word as well, like television, it's free.
Right. Now, if this were to go through and it catches fire and more auto manufacturers do this, what could this do for the industry, the AM radio itself?
Well, there's been an effort underway for a number of years to help AM radio stations to launch FM companion signals, and many of our stations here in Indiana have what's called an FM translator, meaning that you can actually tune to that station on the FM dial, but that is not ubiquitous. It isn't available for every station. It's the same story with streamed music and signals over the internet. Some of the automakers have said, look, many stations are streaming today, so this really shouldn't be a concern. But you see, the devil's in the details. It's true that many stream, but not everybody streams. So, and streaming, by the way, requires a cell phone subscription for data. Right. So we'd like to keep AM and FM radio free. We'd like to keep it front and center right there in the automobile. And that's why this new act that was just introduced today, it's called the AM Radio in Every Vehicle Act, is so very important.
And in the few seconds we have left, Dave, please tell our viewers what they should do if they want to sound off on this issue. What do they need to do if they want to keep AM radio or they want to do away with it?
Well, I would contact Representative Bucshon in Washington or in his district office in Evansville. And the same thing with our senators, Senator Braun, Senator Young. Let them know that AM radio is important to you.
All right. Dave Arland with the Indiana Broadcasters Association. Thanks so much for taking the time today and explaining this for us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for the time.